Okay, so editing post. It's not a Monday editing post anymore because I'm not going to do them on Mondays. I'm going to take Mondays off. But I'm starting a whole new series. From beginning to end, I am going to show you how to write a book as a pantser. Getting people to buy your words, not just, writing for fun. But if you want people to pay for your words and you're a pantser, this is how you should do it. It'll save you a ton of time and money. You don't have to do it this way. You're a pantser. You're allowed to do whatever you want. So the way you're going to find these, if you notice when I started, it had a big old 1. So they're going to go in order. This is number 1. Also, you can go to my website. It's Books and Candy. They'll be there too. If I tell you there's forms, they'll be there also. The one thing I cannot stress enough is never, 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 never use word count as a goal. Because as a pantser, you use way too many words and they're not good words. They're repetitive, they're adverbs, they're passive voice, the tenses are wrong. Like the more you push yourself to put a lot of words in, the worse your writing is going to get. I'm going to hold up a book. So in this book, I'm still using a nail file. I'll get a bookmark. In this book, we see a fully realized Fae romance from beginning to end, following all the plot structures. We are introduced to 3 main characters, 1 influential side character, and the villain. We also get the setup for a fantasy fiction series. We get the magic structures, we get the political structures, we get the main characters, we get the land, and we get the stories start. This is 130,000 words. So in 130,000 words, she wrote 2 different books, set up a fantasy, and had a romance in there. So when you're up to like 300,000 words, know that her first book had 130,000 words, satisfying ending, and she already had, I think, 5 bestsellers when she put this book out. So word count is important. You can't just be like, oh, it's okay, it's 450,000 words. I'm going to self-publish. Don't waste your money. People aren't going to buy it. Your family will buy it, but no one wants to make a big commitment on an untested author. That's a huge financial commitment. They're going to return it. It's just a mess. So try to keep your writing to like 90,000 words. If you aim for 90,000 words, you should get somewhere. Now, if it's going to be a series, that's fine, but end the first book. Harry Potter was a series of individual books with an overarching goal. You can do it that way. Or you can have one long series, but every book has to have a goal and has to achieve that goal. So now you're going to open up your document. How you do it? I use Word. You open up your doc. There's a blank page. What do? Well, I do what I used to call word vomit, but grossed my husband out. So now I call it word yarf. And you are literally just going to word yarf a bunch of words onto that page. And they're going to be gross words and they're going to be bad. And you're not really going to want to look at it. And you certainly don't want other people to look at it. Don't make people look at that. It's full of passive voice and repetitive like you want to believe. And the sentence structure, there's no paragraph structure. There's barely any chapter structure. You yarf out as many words as you need to. But I have to tell you, if you're doing a good job, if you're really, working on your story and working to get it out, you should be getting tired around 800, 1,000 words. Now, some days you'll have a good day. You'll be at 2,000. Other days you'll get 100 out. That's fine because you don't want to have 140,000 crappy words because the more you try to push out this story, the worse it's going to get. This will be your rough draft. It's not even really a first draft. Some people call it a first draft. I like to call it a rough. Your rough should be somewhere between 30 and 50,000 words. Now, the reason it is this is because you're not going to bother with a lot of description. Don't waste your time describing the mountains in the sky and everybody's face. You put enough description in so that you know where you are. And it could really just be like, we're in New Jersey and leave it. Or you could go in the rolling hills, or we're in a cave. But you don't have to go describing the color of the walls or anything. Very, almost no description. Just enough for you to know where you are. And just enough so that you know what the characters look like. You don't have to do any kind of description. And you really don't want to do too much dialogue because any dialogue you put in there is probably going to be really bad. You're going to put a lot of dialogue you don't need, and it's probably going to suck. So don't waste your time and your energy and your creative juices doing things that you're probably going to want to cut anyway. Because if you put too much time in them, you're not going to want to cut them out. And then you try to save them. And then you put a ton of energy and money into saving these crappy parts. And either you leave them in your book and your book is just crappy, or you take them out and it is really painful. Or an editor hurts your feelings really bad. Or you make an enemy of an editor when you send them a nasty email because they're telling you to take that part out. So you get your 50,000 words. And the last thing, and this is the most important, do not edit your word yarf. There's a thing called Dorodango where they literally take dung and they polish it to the point where it shines like a ball. It's a shiny ball of shit. It's a lot of work. And at the end, you'll just have a ball of shit. You can put a lot of work into your word yarf, into your rough, and you'll have a nice shiny ball of shit. That'll cost you a ton of money to make it shiny and a ton of energy. Just get to the end. You have to know where you're at. If your process is that you have to go back and kind of read where you were so you can take off again, have a limit to how far you're going to go back. Maybe you'll go back 2,000 words or the last chapter or whatever. Go through and say, okay, I'll fix the typos. I'll fix the character name. I'll do whatever. Then just keep going. You're going to lose characters are going to come in and out. They're going to change description. You're going to be in the wrong location. All that is fine. All of it is fine, because there's a part 2 to this rough that we're going to do, but you have to have at the end. You don't have anything until this rough has at the end. Once you get there, once there is the end, then I can show you how to save a ton of work, a ton of money, and a ton of energy getting it so you actually have a very good work in progress. Now in this rough, you don't have a word count goal. You want to have story goals. So chapter 1, I need to set up the problem. I need to start an action and set up the problem. That's it. I'm going to word yarf, whatever that is. Chapter 2, I'm going to show the home life before they go to the fantasy world. Chapter 3, we go to the fantasy world. I got to describe and set up a bunch of characters. So you don't want to have 5,000 words in each chapter. You want to have 1,000 words, 1,500 words in each chapter. Because you're not putting in a dialogue, you're not putting in a lot of description. So, and it's not filled out. We're going to do the fill out in editing. We're going to put all that stuff in. We have time to really spend 2 hours just thinking about that conversation. Just thinking about the best ways to describe a mountain. Thinking about those things. Instead of trying to think about all the things all at once. We're going to think about our character arcs and all that stuff. Right now, we got to know just basically what's in those chapters.